Tonight, turmoil in Afghanistan as the opposition candidate withdraws from the runoff election, raising more questions about the future course of U.S. policy. I'm Russ Mitchell. Also tonight, vaccine dilemma. With youngsters at higher risk from the H1N1 flu, parents weigh the pros and cons of vaccination. A new generation of prospectors rush to California as the price of gold soars to more than $1,000 an ounce.
Our people that are literally scratching away in these hills, right? And they're making money.
And rock on. The biggest stars in rock and roll mark the silver anniversary of their Hall of Fame.
This is the CBS Evening News with Russ Mitchell.
And good evening. We begin with another twist in the Afghan presidential election. Challenger Abdullah Abdullah made it official today. He is dropping out of next Saturday's runoff vote, throwing the future of the U.S.-backed electoral process into doubt. In response to the move, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said today, quote, "It is now a matter for the Afghan authorities to decide on a way ahead." Mandy Clark is in the Afghan capital of Kabul tonight.
With great drama, Abdullah made his announcement. I protest the government's wrongdoing. I will not participate in the elections.
The message to his supporters is to sit out the election, but he's also sending a message to President Karzai, and it's a clear challenge to his legitimacy.
This political crisis began with a massive vote-rigging operation on Election Day. As the scale of the fraud became apparent, Abdullah and international observers lost faith in the government-backed body that ran the election. Abdullah called for changes to prevent a new round of fraud in the runoff elections, but all his demands were denied. That prompted him to end his campaign less than a week before Election Day. The U.S. made it clear they wanted a concession statement from Abdullah that didn't question the legitimacy of the political process here.
I don't think it has anything to do with the legitimacy of the election. It's a personal choice.
But they got the exact opposite.
If the election goes ahead, will it be legitimate?
I think we are talking about a hypothetical situation at this stage. The legitimacy does not depend on one person recognizing somebody's legitimacy.
Tonight, it is still unclear if next weekend's vote will go ahead. Abdullah's political supporters are still hoping Western powers can push through a plan that throws out these results and schedules new elections in the spring. The international community should step in, an interim government should be formed, and new fair elections should be organized, says this Abdullah supporter. This crisis couldn't come at a worse time for the American strategy in Afghanistan. President Obama is just weeks away from announcing his decision on whether he'll send in thousands more U.S. troops in a major new counterinsurgency plan. A plan that could be doomed if the Afghan people don't believe in the legitimacy of their own government. Mandy Clark, CBS News, Kabul.
In this country, Election Day is Tuesday, and it's been a busy barnstorming weekend for candidates in some key races. Randall Pinkston takes a look at two showdowns being watched closely by the White House.
Locked in a tight race for re-election, New Jersey Governor Jon Corzine is hoping President Obama's popularity in the Garden State will rub off on him.
We need leaders who are committed to moving New Jersey forward. And that's Jon Corzine, which is why you need to work hard on Tuesday.
Last November, the president won New Jersey by 15 points, but the latest polls show Corzine in a dead heat with Republican challenger Chris Christie, while supporters of the independent Chris Daggett appear to be shifting to Christie.
But I'm not ready to give up yet. I'm ready to fight.
President Obama's political clout is also being tested in Virginia. He has campaigned twice for Democrat Creigh Deeds, but the latest polls show Deeds trailing Republican Bob McDonnell by double digits.
Creigh has been there for the people of Virginia. He needs you to be there for him.
Tuesday's election may not be good news for Democrats. With the outlook in New Jersey iffy and in Virginia downright dismal, the president's advisors are already in spin mode, denying this election is a referendum on Mr. Obama.
Whatever the results are, I don't think they portend a lot in dealing with the future.
Whatever happens Tuesday, in many ways, it's a test run. Both Democrats and Republicans will be looking for indications of what may happen next year, when a lot more is at stake. 37 governor seats, 1/3 of the U.S. Senate, and every seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, Newark, New Jersey.
For more perspective on this Tuesday's key races, we are joined by our senior political correspondent, Jeff Greenfield. Jeff, good evening.
Hi, Russ.
Let's begin with the governor's race in Virginia. The Democrat looks like he's in trouble there.
Yeah, the Republican Attorney General Robert McDonnell has built a lead in the polls by stressing lunch bucket issues as opposed to his background in the religious right. The Democrats are hoping that the kind of voters, younger and African-American, who gave the state to Obama last year will turn out. But right now, yes, we can looks like no, we probably can't.
Let's move to New Jersey now. You've got a race there that's neck and neck that's getting very nasty. Where do you see that headed?
Well, the key here is Democrats always do better on Election Day in New Jersey than in the polls. And what Democrats are hoping is that Obama's presence, he's been there 3 times, plus the $20 to $30 million that Governor Jon Corzine has thrown into this race is going to defeat Republican Chris Christie. There's also an independent, Chris Daggett, who may draw votes from the Republican. But if Democrats don't repeat what they normally do in New Jersey, which is to win, that's going to chill a lot of Democrats around the country.
There's a House race, a special House race in upstate New York that is just, it has been a wild weekend for this particular race. The Republican normally wins this race, apparently not this time around.
We don't know, because what's happened is the conservatives revolted against the Republican choice of Didi Scosavaza. They said she was too liberal. The Conservative Party in New York put up its own candidate, Doug Hoffman. Yesterday, the Republican withdrew from the race. She was way behind in the polls. Today, she threw her support to Democrat Bill Owens. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can, I think, say that conservatives next year in the House and Senate races may challenge moderate Republicans if they don't think they're really Republican enough. That's the key to watching this one.
Jeff Greenfield, as always, thank you very much.
Okay.
CIT, a major lender to small businesses, which received $2.3 billion in federal bailout money last year, filed for bankruptcy today. It is one of the biggest bankruptcies in U.S. corporate history. In medical news, there are disturbing numbers out tonight on the H1N1 virus. The CDC now says 19 children died from the virus the week of October 17th to the 24th. And while many parents across the country are waiting online for hours to get their youngsters vaccinated, others remain skeptical. Hari Srinivasan has that story.
About 15 minutes, we will go ahead and start. Thank you very much.
In places like Everett, Washington, long lines formed quickly this weekend for the H1N1 vaccine. Karen Dubicki was willing to wait. Her 3-year-old Evan has leukemia, which puts him at higher risk for influenza-related complications.
5 hours, it's worth it for me.
With flu activity now widespread in 48 states, the Centers for Disease Control is urging parents to vaccinate their children.
Good job, sweetie. This is a younger people's flu. In a usual flu season, 90% of the deaths are among people over the age of 65. In H1N1, 90% of the deaths are in people under the age of 65.
Can I do this one? But Michelle O'Brien's family in Highland Park, New York, is not worried about the H1N1 virus.
I don't see it as a big beast. I'm not flippant about it. I don't want my kids or anybody else's kids to be a statistic, but it isn't something that's making me run for the shot.
O'Brien is a registered nurse who says her 3 kids are healthy with strong immune systems, that she isn't convinced of the safety of the vaccine, and that she is vigilant for signs of the flu.
We watch them like hawks. They're probably very annoyed with their parents.
But doctors are warning parents that may not be enough.
Have your kid take the vaccine, get vaccinated yourself, and recognize that 114 deaths compared to 0 deaths from the vaccine tells us that this is a safe and effective vaccine.
Demand for the H1N1 vaccine continues to exceed supply, but the CDC is closing the gap. As of Friday, 26.6 million doses were available. That's 10.5 million more doses than the week before. The government is also releasing all its remaining supply of children's Tamiflu, a drug that reduces the symptoms of the virus. In early October, they released 300,000 doses. The CDC is now emptying stockpiles and releasing another 234,000 doses. Michelle O'Brien says she is still on the sidelines.
If the spike in deaths and severe illnesses goes up, then we revisit.
A spike doctors hope never happens. Hari Srinivasan, CBS News, New York.
We have a sports story to tell you about tonight. It is a big day for the U.S. in the world of marathon running. For the first time since 1982, an American has won the New York City Marathon.
7 years later.
Nearing the finish line, 34-year-old Meb Keflezighi pointed proudly to the USA on his shirt. Keflezighi, a naturalized American who was born in Eritrea and now lives in San Diego, finished second in 2004. The same year, he won an Olympic silver medal. His career was in jeopardy after the 2007 Olympic trials when he learned he had a stress fracture in his hip. The injury nearly ended his career and made today's victory even sweeter. With 2 miles to go, Keflezighi broke away, and his family was there to congratulate him at the finish line. Keflezighi was one of 6 American men to finish in the top 10 today. That had not happened since 1979. And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, there is gold in those California streams, and these prospectors want it. Gas prices have edged up to an average of $2.69 a gallon. That's up 4 cents in a week and 13 cents more than a year ago. At the same time, the price of another commodity, gold, has skyrocketed from roughly $750 an ounce 1 year ago to nearly $1,046 today. That has led to a new California gold rush. Here's John Blackstone.
The same rivers that drew prospectors to the California gold rush of 1849 are busy again with people panning. Teasing glistening specks of gold out of gravel and sand takes a technique. Brent Schock charges $15 to $45 to learn how.
We put it back in the water.
Bookings have doubled over last year. You know when the price of gold goes up, your phone is going to ring.
Yes, exactly. It's great, because everybody gets to make money.
Possibly a lot of money.
That's what we're looking for.
That's right.
Now, that's not a little speck.
Oh, man. Just 2 years ago, an ounce of gold was worth $660. Now it's been holding steady at over $1,000 an ounce.
That's nice. I have gold fever. When I see that gold in my pan, it's like, there it is.
It's said that the 49ers managed to find only about 20% of California's gold, apparently leaving plenty for the tourists who show up now with a glimmer in their eyes.
We're not the mushroom state or the artichoke capital, the golden state.
The true measure of gold fever is not in the tourists coming here. It's in those now seeking gold full time. Since 2005, the number of federal mining permits issued in California is up more than 50%, from less than 16,000 to more than 24,000. John Gurney quit his job as an East Coast carpenter 3 years ago to strike it rich. He teaches panning for extra pocket cash and has been working the creeks to pay the bills.
If you do it for a living, you have to sell your gold. This will pay this bill, this will register the truck, and so you sell your gold as quick as you get it.
In the gold country community of Jamestown, unemployment is 12.5% and climbing. John Bonilla was laid off from his job as a security guard in June.
Prices are high. There's no job out there. Yeah, might as well get some gold and pay my bills.
The high price of gold enables him to get by on what he mines, but it also brings on the competition.
When gold goes to $1,000 an ounce, does the atmosphere change around here?
Oh, for the people it does, especially the tourists. I mean, they come in left and right, and they want to find what the prospectors have been finding.
As Brent Schock gives lessons to novice prospectors, he also warns that it's hard work. After all, if it were easy to get rich this way, would he be sharing his secrets? John Blackstone, CBS News, Jamestown, California.
And just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, is the new commandant of the Army's Drill Sergeant School tough enough for the job? When drill sergeants turn raw recruits into soldiers, they are building the foundation of Army combat readiness. Now, for the first time, the school that turns out these tough-as-nails officers is commanded by a woman. Michelle Miller got up early to watch her work.
Even before the sun is up, Commandant Sergeant Major Teresa King is making her rounds.
That's not a good thing.
Making sure everyone stays on schedule and prepared to train the Army's next generation of soldiers.
I'm still like almost in shock.
Really?
Yeah, because, I was planning to retire.
After a 29-year career, King put retirement on hold last month because the Army tapped her to be the first female commandant of the Army's newly consolidated drill sergeant school here at Fort Jackson. Now King oversees the training of the Army's entire pool of future drill sergeants.
Training is my forte, so I expect people to meet standards and exceed them.
Still, when King's promotion was announced, critics charged at a time when the country's at war. She's a woman with no combat experience.
There were the typical grumblings of, hey, it should be a guy.
It's a stark reminder that while women make up 14% of the Army's active duty personnel, they're only 8% of the Army's highest-ranking non-commissioned officers and are still barred from holding frontline combat positions.
So, hurry up.
But King dismisses critics, pointing to the combat vets she's already trained.
Why am I successful? Because they are.
Because you train them to be.
And I train them to be. That's right.
The concept of a drill sergeant has been around since the American Revolution, but wasn't made official until 1964. The task of a drill sergeant? To train a better soldier, training that could mean life or death on the battlefield.
In the real world, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, we expect soldiers to go over there and do what they have to do and come back alive.
Bullets flying all around.
This year, the school will graduate nearly 2,000 new drill sergeants. In this latest class of 96, 16 are women.
I'm excited about it. It gives us more hope, and hopefully there'll be more females.
King adds, qualified and up to the challenge.
If they are able to do it, allow them to do that.
What I say you're supposed to do, Private?
Giving everyone the chance to be all they can be. Michelle Miller, CBS News, Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
And coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News, it's only rock and roll, but they like it a lot. Finally tonight, it was a 25th birthday party like no other. A pair of all-star concerts in New York this past week to celebrate the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Lucky guy Anthony Mason was there.
The two-day birthday bash at Madison Square Garden had a dream team for a guest list. Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel. Stevie Wonder and Sting. U2 and a Rolling Stone. Silver-haired rock stars.
Goodness gracious, with balls of fire.
Celebrating the silver anniversary of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's an organization that has elevated the history of this music.
The Hall's $100 million Cleveland home has become a cultural temple and sometimes a controversial one.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which now includes this New York annex, has inducted 234 artists over its 25 years. But some prominent performers are still waiting for their invitations.
Well, despite some 40 top 40 hits, Neil Diamond is not in the Hall.
You think you're worthy?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the songs and the music and the records over the years have earned me that.
Van Morrison was voted in, but skipped his induction ceremony.
Basically, I think it's got very little to do with rock and roll. That's what I...
The institution.
Yeah.
Maybe it's hypocritical, but rock, which preaches rebellion against institutions, has become one itself.
These are the legends.
Jan Wenner, publisher of Rolling Stone magazine, is co-founder of the Hall of Fame.
Think of everything else as institutionalized. Whether it's Picasso, or Rembrandt or Robert Frost. Every art, and as rebellious as they were, becomes part of the mainstream.
And most artists embrace the honor.
I don't put my gold records on the wall or that kind of thing. But there is something else involved here, which is the respect of your peers.
Rock no longer dominates the radio or music sales, which may make it harder to choose future inductees.
It is not going to be as obvious, and obviously you're never going to replicate, you know, Bob Dylan, the Stones, or Chuck Berry, or Elvis.
At the Garden, the night belonged to rock's all-stars, who, unlike sports Hall of Famers, wanted to show they can still play. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
And that is the CBS Evening News. Later on 60 Minutes, an inside look at H1N1 flu vaccine production. I'm Russ Mitchell. Katie's here tomorrow. I'll see you on The Early Show. Good night.